Hello to all astrology enthusiasts. In this video, I want to discuss retrograde Venus in the signs of Aries and Pisces for each of the 12 zodiac signs. Aries. The transit of retrograde Venus is occurring in your sign, and this is your first house of the horoscope. And here, retrograde Venus will direct your focus and attention to your personality, self-esteem, appearance, and style of interaction with the world. This means it's a time to review and analyze certain behavior patterns. In personal relationships, feelings, love, and financial matters, all of this will require you to reassess. And here, perhaps during this transit, there will be some internal conflict between the desire to be independent and the desire or need. At the same time, to receive certain recognition. And the transit will create situations for you where there will be a feeling that your previous kind of behavior style or outward image no longer reflects your internal state. You might feel the urge to change your image, but I remind you that any drastic decisions are better left until after the retrograde period. Venus. There will be situations where old partners, friends, or exes might return. Admirers, partners. And here, unfinished romantic stories will resurface to test whether you have learned the lesson. There will also be situations where you will realize that impulsiveness, the struggle for leadership, or the desire to dominate in any situation, whether in relationships or business, are hindering you from being in harmony and balance every day. Here, unexpected expenses, delays in payments, or invested money may not, of course, bring the expected results during this period. To work through the energy of this transit, it is essential to consciously work on your self-esteem and not depend on others' opinions. Do not fall into egocentrism, but understand which personal desires and values are truly important to you and which are imposed by society. It is important here to pay attention, for example, to partners who return or friendships that reappear in your life, not to repeat old mistakes, but to learn the necessary lessons and conclusions. And be cautious with finances. On March 27, Venus will return to Pisces, and this will be your 12th house. And here, very deep work will begin, such deep internal work with your suppressed emotions and themes of spirituality. The 12th house is responsible for the subconscious, dreams, and intuition. And here, of course, all of this will be activated. Situations may arise where certain emotional processes will intensify in your life. Here, there may be financial issues that are related to expenses that were previously, for example, ignored. There might be some unaccounted debts or hidden expenses. There will be heightened sensitivity, very active intuition, and, of course, to ground the energies of this transit. Pay attention to these topics, take some time alone, and make sure to spend time one-on-one with yourself and work through them. All these psychological aspects so that you don't have to return to them again. And I wish you good luck. Taurus, retrograde Venus is in your 12th house of the horoscope. And this is a period for you when, so to speak, hidden feelings will surface. There will be situations related to karmic connections. And there will be very deep internal experiences. That is, this is a time when old emotional issues may resurface. Some relationships, or for example, a sudden message from a former partner, or the realization that relationships that seemed finished are still emotionally significant for you. There may be a desire to retreat and to delve into your own thoughts or experience some secret romantic feelings. For example, you might encounter a situation where you suddenly realize a strong attraction to someone but are unable to express it due to certain circumstances. Unexpected financial issues are also possible here. Someone might remind you of an old debt, or there may be a desire to make some charitable contribution. And to work through the transit of Venus in your 12th house. For example, if former partners or some unresolved emotions and fears return in thoughts or dreams, after all, it's the 12th house, it's a signal to finally let them go. Meditations, art therapy, keeping written practices, or kotya and tracking dreams are useful here to understand what subconscious processes are occurring within you. It's important not to succumb to illusions here. For example, do not engage in secret relationships, which will inevitably lead to disappointment. Financial awareness is needed here. If, for instance, the desire arises to spend money under the influence of emotions, if these are impulsive purchases, especially expensive ones, then during retrograde Venus, naturally it's better to postpone and wait out this period, so to speak. From March 27, Venus will return to your 11th house of the horoscope in Pisces, and this is completely different energies. Here, after a period of self-analysis in your 12th house, the focus will shift to society, to friendly relationships, to collective projects. This may manifest as an unexpected invitation to meet with old friends or the appearance of a person who previously played a very important role for you. But contact with them was lost for some reason. You might receive an offer to participate in some creative project from acquaintances or start reevaluating your goals, desires, dreams, ambitions. At the same time, you will come to understand which dreams truly inspire you. There may also be financial issues related specifically to collective activities, possibly social projects, for example. The idea of joint investment in some charitable project or in a business or some online project. And to ground these energies, you definitely need to expand your social circle. Attention should be paid to the themes of the 11th house, but you should be very selective because not all connections will be beneficial. And if someone from the past evokes any negative emotions, it's worth analyzing these situations and considering whether to renew these contacts. And when new project ideas arise, analyze everything very carefully, especially their realism, and do not fall for illusions. After all, we also have a stellium in Pisces. And also, pay attention to financial awareness in your life. Notice what offers you receive and study their terms carefully. And I wish you good luck. Gemini, retrograde Venus is in your 11th house of horoscope. And here it opens a period for you when it will make you rethink friendships and collective connections, as well as dreams and ideals about the future, hopes and plans for the future. Here, the return of old friends is possible. Here, a reassessment of your life goals is possible. Here, conflicts in group activities are possible. And some financial issues with colleagues will be particularly relevant. Social projects, charitable projects, or online events of some kind. Well, for example, an old friend might suggest you resume communication or start a joint project. Or disagreements may arise in the team due to the distribution of responsibilities. Or there might be some disappointment in group activities where your ideas did not receive the necessary support. There will be situations of returning, discussing some old financial obligations towards friends. And to work through the energy of this transit, you need to analyze which connections are truly valuable to you and which ones should be let go. Here it's important to forgive old grievances and to restore precisely those useful contacts that will be beneficial to you in the future. Reevaluate your participation in certain social projects. Is it necessary to continue, or is it time to change priorities? From March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces, and this will already be your 10th house of the horoscope. And here the focus shifts to career, your status, and your professional goals. New realizations and insights about your, let's say, professional path are possible, including a reassessment of career ambitions and the return of some old career opportunities. For example, a former employer might offer to collaborate again, or you may decide to change your profession, reassess your image, or some financial issues related specifically to work may arise. There might be a situation where a female colleague helps you with something and thereby has a strong influence on your work. Well, in order to ground this energy, first of all, you need to clearly formulate your long-term career goals, review them, and solidify them. It's important here to improve your professional image, address reputation issues, and seek a balance between work and personal life. And also review your finances to see if there is potential for income growth. This is the perfect time to conduct an analysis. Well, I wish you success. Cancers. Retrograde Venus in Aries is in your 10th house of the horoscope. And here it directs your attention to career, professional ambitions, your social status, public image, and reputation. The 10th house also governs official marital relationships. In general, this transit of Venus will make you reconsider, first and foremost, your relationships with colleagues, with superiors, and your own professional achievements. It's important here to reassess your values specifically in work and think about how your personal life intersects with career goals. For example, situations may arise where old career opportunities or unfinished projects return. Situations of conflicts or misunderstandings with colleagues, superiors, or employees may arise. Here, it's possible to conduct a reassessment of professional ambitions and goals. It's necessary here to reconsider your public image. There might be a need to change your communication style or relationships within your teams. As a leader in your business, you should reassess certain things. There may be issues with career plans, delays in achieving goals, or the emergence of new professional obstacles. To work through the transit, it's worth conducting this reassessment of your career values to see how well your current professional activities align with your inner desires. Here you need to work on your image, your reputation, assess how others perceive you, and perhaps reconsider your communication. This period should be used for personal professional growth, preparing for new career opportunities, and focusing on resolving any workplace conflicts and improving communication. From March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces, and this will be your 9th house, and of course there will be changes in energies. Here, the focus will shift to the topic of travel, education, worldview, some legal or judicial matters, or pedagogical activities. This period will give you the opportunity to reassess your values in general, which are related to your personal development and your life philosophy. And here, it is very beneficial to return, so to speak, to themes of spiritual quest, or to get involved in some educational projects that will broaden your horizons. For example, situations will arise where you will return to some projects or topics that you once left behind. Or there will be a desire to return to places you visited before, where you traveled before, to meet people from other countries. Overall, this is an excellent period to, so to speak, rethink your spiritual views on life. And there may arise some unresolved legal issues, especially if they are related to an international level. In general, everything foreign passes through the 9th house for us. And in order to ground these energies, definitely pay attention to these topics. Continue to deepen your knowledge through learning, through spiritual practices. Re-establish connections with people from other countries, with foreigners, business partnerships. Engage in spiritual practices, and then the energies will play out positively. I wish you good luck. Leo's retrograde Venus in Leo is moving through your 9th house of the horoscope. And here it will emphasize your attention on themes of education and travel, your life philosophical views, your worldview beliefs. The period which create a need to rethink your relationships in the context of education or any interactions with foreigners, whether business partnerships or personal relationships. Here, by the way, they might return. Old former partners, unfinished educational projects might open up here, and potential new opportunities for possibilities. Travel might arise, but they will require you to reassess. In general, situations will arise where you will need to return to old educational projects, courses that you once studied and did not complete. Here, travels might be unsuccessful or reassessed. You might return to places you have visited before. Here, spiritual searches will be particularly relevant, studying some hidden information in order to rethink your life ideals. Encounters may occur with people from other countries, other cultures, which will make you reconsider relationships, your worldview. In order to work through the energy of this transit, review your educational goals, return to these projects, to the educational courses, complete them, or, thank you, plan new travels but embark on them. Let's say after the retrograde period, pay attention to any international connections. Review your foreign relationships specifically. On March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces in your 8th house. Here, the situation will change completely. The focus will shift to the topic of intimate relationships, financial matters, especially joint resources, and of course, themes of personal deep transformations. This period will be very important for rethinking, for example, the topics of how you share your resources with others and how this affects your relationships. There may be situations where you need to reconsider or review personal relationships in the context of the intimate side of life. Here, former partners may return, old debts may resurface, as well as financial issues and obligations. And naturally, there is very strong, deep psychological work related to the 8th house. So it's a very good time. This time should be used to your advantage. Additionally, work on your psychological blocks. Get rid of old grievances, fears, and suppressed emotions. You can consult a psychologist or conduct meditations on your own. Perhaps engage in some writing practices and, of course, resolve financial issues. Well, I wish you success. Virgos, retrograde Venus is in your 8th house of the horoscope. And here, of course, she opens a period of reevaluation and personal transformations for you. Topics related to intimate personal life will be relevant, as well as financial matters, division of joint property. Some old issues related to personal boundaries, financial obligations, inheritance, and debts may arise. Well, for example, situations may arise when questions from the past will surface, past relationships or ex-partners may return, and this will specifically concern the intimate side of life in order to resolve some misunderstandings. There might be a reconsideration of joint financial obligations and debts. In relationships, for instance, with partners, there may be a need to clarify personal boundaries or establish these boundaries. Old emotional wounds or grievances may be triggered, especially if they are also related to misunderstandings in financial or sexual relationship matters. And all of this needs to be resolved constructively and, so to speak, healed. To work through this energy, it is essential to strengthen your personal boundaries. And let's say, increase confidence in the fact that what is truly important in your personal relationships. In general, retro Venus should be used to work through some old relationships, emotional blocks, perhaps to go into psychotherapy, review your financial obligations, agreements, contracts, especially those concerning debts and joint assets, and to acknowledge your true values and desires in intimate relationships, so that to find this harmony between personal zero, the lady, and the partner's needs. From March 27th, Venus, will return to Pisces, which will be your 7th house of the horoscope. Here, Venus will bring a focus on the theme of partnerships of all kinds, including business, client-related topics, and cooperation. These can also be personal professional connections. Former partners will definitely return, or there will be a need to reassess current relationships. For example, as situations may arise where a former partner returns to resolve some conflict, or in relationships with a spouse or business partners, there will be a chance to establish mutual understanding, or a situation of idealization by the partner may arise. And here, of course, risks will appear. For example, falling too deeply in love or having some heightened expectations. I remind you that we have a Pisces style working in the background. Overall, during this transit, it's very beneficial to rethink your behavior patterns and interactions with others. Pay attention to any of your relationships. Even if there are relationships with some open enemies, they can also be resolved. Harmonize and use these energies for yourself. Plus, I wish you good luck. Libra, retrograde Venus is in your 7th house of the horoscope. And here it focuses your attention on reviewing personal relationships, partnerships, business interactions, relationships with your clients, and generally any interactions with those around you. This is exactly what our 7th house is responsible for. Retrograde Venus in the 7th house will force you to return to old issues, unfinished situations and problems, unresolved conflicts, specifically in relationships. Our relationships with partners, both personal and business, will require changes from you, will require completion, a serious rethinking of how you interact with the people around you. During the transit of retrograde Venus in the 7th house, situations are possible when there will be a return of old partners or disagreements. Here, Venus in Aries will precisely lead to the return of ex-partners with whom you need to finish unfinished stories. Questions may arise with current partners that require reconsideration, perhaps some misunderstandings, miscommunications. It is very beneficial to rethink all types of relationships in general. You might feel the need for greater independence, or conversely more initiative in partnerships. The question of who controls the relationship, who initiates, may also become relevant. Here, it will be necessary to reevaluate the overall balance in relationships. Perhaps it's your overly active behavior or that of your partner, or maybe you need to show some independence, or maybe you need to reconsider personal desires in relationships and partnerships. Retro Venus will help with this. It is responsible for our feelings, for our personal relationships. And in order to work through this energy, it is certainly necessary to pay attention to it. From March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces, your 6th house. And here, the focus will shift to the topic of work, health, daily routine, duties, and sports. Here, you might feel the urge to find and establish harmony, take care of your health, and reassess your daily tasks. In general, there may be situations where you need to rethink your approach to work, interactions with colleagues, with management, and your health. Perhaps some old projects will return, some unfinished reports, documentation. And the retrograde motion of the planet will allow you to complete and perfect all these things, so to speak. And in order to ground this energy, it is essential to pay attention primarily to your health, your condition, balance work and rest, reduce stress, and perhaps restructure your schedule, return to a certain diet, or resume some physical exercises, get back into sports. All of this will also help ground this energy, and I wish you good luck. Scorpios, Retro-Venus is in your 6th house of the horoscope, the house of health, work, and daily routine, as well as the 6th house. It is responsible for sports and pets. And here you will have a period of revisiting these topics, specifically related to the directions of life in the 6th house of the horoscope. And considering that Venus is responsible for relationships primarily and finances, naturally this will affect work. Here, difficulties are possible and misunderstandings within the team, a return to some old work processes, and a reevaluation of personal and professional goals. Conflicts may arise with colleagues or superiors related to or based on personal desires. Situations involving rethinking one's role at work or the theme of lacking satisfaction from current duties. There may be situations of old health problems returning, issues with physical condition, and the need to reconsider the daily routine. Subtitles by Bex Dimatorzok, your overall psychological state and the impact of stress on your life. Problems with balancing work and personal life will arise here. To work through the energies of the transit, firstly, in the context of work, you need to discuss any issues with colleagues and superiors and have frank conversations. In terms of health, undergo a medical examination, pay attention to your body, habits, and review work processes. It may be necessary to optimize or simplify something here, for example, in your work activities. It is very beneficial to focus on finding ways to relax, relieve stress, and engage in physical activity and meditation. From March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces in your 5th house and will completely shift your focus to the theme of creativity, romantic relationships, and interactions with children. You might encounter romantic returns, so to speak, or some creative blocks. Here, for example, former partners may return or relationships may be restored. Some old relationships, there may be difficulties in the creative process. For example, there might be a lack of inspiration and you will need to seek it in some of your past projects. Problems may arise in relationships with children, necessitating a review of your approach to parenting. You might also experience a strong influence of nostalgia for past hobbies or romantic relationships. Here, to ground these energies, you need to immerse yourself in creativity, art therapy, music. Find it, that very inspiration. Communicate openly with children, resolve all misunderstandings, listen to your intuition, because this is, after all, the energy of Pisces. And I wish you success on this transit. Sagittarius, retrograde Venus is in your 5th house of the horoscope in the sign of Aries. And this is a period for you when Venus will make you rethink issues of self-expression. It will affect your romantic relationships, your interactions with your children if applicable, and will put the theme of creativity at the forefront. Here, the return of former partners is possible, or a restoration of certain personal relationships, a re-evaluation of your creative initiatives. There may be blockages, some obstacles in interactions with children. For example, the transit may create situations where a former partner might renew the relationship or projects related to creativity will require some refinement, or tense moments may arise in relationships with children. Or you may want to return to some old interests, hobbies, that you once started and left for some reason. To work through the energy, you need to analyze old romantic connections, decide whether it is worth returning to, restoring something from the past. Work through a creative stagnation, perhaps return to some old projects or create new ones. But use some motivation or inspiration from something in the past. And of course, work on your relationship with your children. From March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces, and this will be your 4th house, shifting the focus to your family, home, domestic comfort, or topics related to moving, changing residence, buying or selling real estate. And here there may be a desire to completely immerse yourself in your family history, or to improve family relationships, including relationships with parents, or to change something in the home environment. But the only thing is to do it after the retrograde. There will be situations where questions about the past will arise, perhaps to mend relationships with some close relatives. Here you will need to reassess family responsibilities, or change something in the home atmosphere, or return to resolving some financial issues related to the home and real estate. And to ground these energies, you definitely need to reconsider how you have arranged your home. Is there something that needs to be changed to create more comfort? Do you need to work on strengthening some family ties or relationships, or perhaps get rid of some old grievances? Maybe you need to review something in your finances, especially regarding home projects. And accordingly, implement all this to your advantage. I wish you success. Capricorn retrograde Venus. It transits through your 4th house in the zodiac sign of Aries. And here it directs you to reconsider your family matters, family relationships, themes of home comfort, or topics of moving, changing residence, selling and buying real estate. Situations may arise here where it will be necessary to return attention to some past family problems, to make changes in some home topics. For example, like old family conflicts, including interactions with parents, may become relevant, and you will need to return to them. Or there may be a desire to improve the home atmosphere. Or you might want to bring back some old furniture, or resolve conflicts with close family members, with parents. A situation may arise where you will feel nostalgic for your childhood or parental relationships. This will also lead to a certain reevaluation of family ties. In order to work through the energies of the transit, naturally, it is necessary to analyze these situations, to analyze which family ties are important, which require forgiveness, letting go, letting go, letting go. Work with, let's say, your inner emotions so that you feel harmonious in the place where you live. Well, naturally, improve any types of relationships with your close relatives and restore harmony. From March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces, your 3rd house. And here the focus will shift entirely to the sphere of communication and a large amount of information production. Interaction with neighbors, brothers, sisters, very close relatives, and also relevant topics of education. For example, you might want to return to some educational process or revisit some old conversations, misunderstandings with close relatives, and resolve any conflicts. Or you might want to restore some connections with people you haven't communicated with for a long time. And in order to ground this energy, it is certainly necessary to work on communication. You need to be more attentive, more patient, especially if the topic concerns resolution of some misunderstandings, for example, with brothers and sisters. And naturally, also in the 3rd house, by the way, we have some short trips. You might feel like going on a trip somewhere you have been before. In any case, use the energies to your advantage, and I wish you good luck. Aquarius retrograde Venus is in your third house of the horoscope. Here it has opened a period for you to reassess your communications, ways of interacting, ways of perceiving information, interactions with your brothers, sisters, close ones, relatives, and even neighbors. Here, Venus in the third house will direct your attention to how you communicate. How do you perceive the surrounding world, how you interact with people? It's a time to reassess very close relationships, interactions, and to harmonize all of this and understand which interactions are important and valuable to you and which ones you need to let go of. Here, for example, there may be situations of old conversations, conflicts, correspondences returning, some unresolved issues or situations from the past. The establishment of communication with people with whom you haven't maintained contact for a long time, connection. There may be some conflicts due to misunderstandings in communication. Here, various disruptions related to technology are also possible because, after all, there is still the backdrop of retrograde Mercury. So be attentive. And in order to work through this energy, you definitely need to delve into these unresolved topics related to communication, relationships, communications, conflicts, and engage in discussions to resolve and establish contact. On March 27th, Venus returns to Pisces, to your second house of the horoscope, and naturally shifts your focus entirely to financial matters, material values, and self-esteem topics. That is, for you, this will be a period of rethinking your financial strategies and approaches and sources of income. For you, the topic of earnings will become for you, the issue of how to generally improve your material sphere will become important. First and foremost, for example, there will be situations where you need to review your financial plans or expenses. Here, questions of self-esteem and value systems will become more acute. There may be situations where you need to resolve some financial or debt issues that somehow slipped out of your sight. And in order to work on this and ground this energy naturally, you need to focus your attention on these areas and review your budget, reconsider the possibilities of improving your financial situation. Here, you can work from the perspective of financial literacy with your beliefs and fears regarding money and remove all the unnecessary. What is hindering your development in this area of life? In any case, I wish you good luck. Retrograde Venus in Aries in your second house of the horoscope, and it has opened a period for you that will affect your issues, all questions of your finances, values, themes of self-esteem, and your material comfort. In general, the second house is associated with what we value, what supports our stability, how we perceive our financial security, themes of income and expenses. The budget, all of this will come to the forefront, and you will need to reassess your views on money, on values, or you will need to return to some old financial situations and issues. For example, situations related to reevaluating what is valuable to you, what is truly important for your stability and comfort. Or you may want to return to old methods, earnings, or savings that previously, for example, provided some benefit. The topics of debt situations, loans, financial obligations will also come to the forefront, and they will need to be resolved. Well, and not, there might also be a situation related to business or the topic of inheritance, which will also need to be addressed. Naturally, to work through this energy, you need to pay attention to these areas of life, immerse yourself, reassess, reevaluate, and find new solutions. And what is also important here is that from March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces, which will be your first house in the horoscope, affecting you personally, your motivation, your appearance, everything that concerns your personal identity, your expression. The first house is the foundation of the entire horoscope, so to speak, of our life. And accordingly, all our beginnings and projects start from the first house. So here Venus will bring us back to something to review, reassess, make new decisions, and naturally relaunch them into implementation. This will concern both the internal state of the value system and the external, including appearance, behavior style, clothing style, and the style of expressing relationships. That is absolutely everything that comes from us personally. In any case, I wish you success. Use this energy to your advantage. Subscribe, like, share this video, and see you. Bye-bye.